Hello and good morning, afternoon and evening. Welcome to this first session and the first day of the International Week of Happiness at Work 2024. My name is Héðinn Sveinbjörnsson and I have this sexy name because I come from Iceland, but you can call me Héðinn. So, before we start talking to our esteemed guests, I want to talk to you about why the International Week of Happiness at Work. So, two lovely ladies in the Netherlands and Holland, they decided 6 years ago in 2018 to make this a week, make this week because we spend a large part of our lives at work, and which of course has a significant impact on the rest of our lives. So we want to make, and of course we want to make the best out of the workplace, and then we want to declare it that we should all be happy at work, or we should feel good at work. So this is the aim. Happiness is the aim, but culture is the game. So now I want to move over and make room for my guest today, which is this man. This is René Oehlenschläger. Is that
Another sexy name.
another sexy name? Yes. Is Oehlenschläger, is that a beer slayer?
Yeah, it's a German name actually, but my native language is Danish, so I'm from Denmark.
Yes. So you are a Dane and I am Icelandic, so this will be super good conversation about feelings and crying and stuff, or what?
Well, I'm game. Sometimes it actually helps to cry, and sometimes it helps to do something about it. So, I mean,
So Renee, I have, like, because you're Danish, then we can't not talk about hygge. As
yeah,
you can see, as you can see, I have done my part because you associate Denmark hygge with lights and coziness,
yeah.
warm tea or coffee. And so before we start, hygge, what is that in your mind?
Hygge is maybe paying attention to the moment actually, in some sense, and I
Oh,
think people do that all over the world. I mean, Danes are not. I mean, I know we're well famous for that, but maybe that's due to Mike Viking and his books. I don't know. So Hygge is for me paying attention to the moment and
you
building
are
on the quality of
you have
a
the
relationship. Sorry?
yeah. So you have maybe you started the movement of hygge.
I don't know. I won't. I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but I know that Hygge is well spread all over Denmark, and the dark side of that is actually also that sometimes Hygge is connected with alcohol. And
Oh,
alcohol, well, it's fine in moderate amount, but if you drink too much, then you get other problems. So hygge is fine, but too much hygge is yeah,
yes.
like
So
everything else in life. I mean, we need a
yeah,
balance in the life
is
to
there always? There is always plus side and minus side.
it is so I'm not a hygge expert.
No, but you
But
are.
I have 7 kids, so sometimes I need to hygge. Uh,
Yes.
and this morning we played table tennis before the 5-year-old went to school because he was eager to do that. I'm not sure if it was really hygge because he lost and I won.
Yeah,
Who
you
played?
can't let the kids win always.
No,
And I can also see that you have two bikes there behind you, so that
yeah,
you know how to hygge. But
yeah,
Renee, now we have hygge away.
yeah.
Who
No more hygge.
who who is Renee, and what does Renee do, and what is Renee's passion in life?
Oh, that's a big question. I will do it in maybe 1 or 2 hours. Is that okay?
Yes.
Well, basically, I'm a Danish guy. trained from the University of Copenhagen in organic chemistry. And I have a major in chemistry and a side major in physical education. So previously, I actually had a career going into the doping area in sports and athletics. But then I came on other thoughts, and now I'm actually, after been working in pharma and food industry for 17 years, and the last 14 years I've been working with positive psychology and happiness studies. And my aim is to translate the science into something that companies and organizations can use in their daily lives. So, for instance, the joy of leadership. I mean, I didn't come up with that. I mean, but my take on that is let's focus on joy and leadership, but let's start by looking at what does the science says about it. I mean, there's a lot of common sense out there, and some of it is okay, and some are not. but as an organic chemist, I'm very much into data, so I'm focused on what works and what doesn't work based on data.
But you say that 14 years ago, in 2010, that is in the midst of the financial crisis.
Yes.
What happened in your, like, were you already at that moment of that?
No, I got fired in the financial crisis.
So you froze. So what happened in 2010?
Oh, I got fired.
So it was per necessity that you had to find the job.
No, it's not a necessity. Actually, I didn't actually have the guts to pursue this area of interest, which I have now. Even though my father actually founded our company in 1995, 15 years before 10. But in 10, I was fired, and then I told him, okay, move on. I want to be a part of your company, and he said no. And I said, think about it, and he did for a couple of weeks, and now we're still here, and he's getting 75 next year, and he's still working with management and leadership also. So he has much more experience and work with them. I mean, I'm 52, and my 23-year-old daughter, she has a very fast brain compared to me, and my brain is a little bit faster than my daddy's, and so that's how it works. So
okay.
So I started there in 10 because I was curious, and I, by mistake, participated in a conference in Copenhagen, the second European conference in positive psychology, held here in Copenhagen, where I live today. And then I discovered, wow, there's actually science backing the things up that I'm attempting to do while I'm working as a head of production in the company where I was at that moment. So I was amazed. I mean, as many leaders out there, we are not trained leaders. We just are promoted because we are there and we are skilled or whatever. But I think it's 5 or 10% of all the leaders in Denmark is actually holding a leadership degree or anything. Otherwise, they're skilled in their field, but not in leadership. And that's part of the reason why sometimes the joy of leadership is not that widespread, because we don't have the skills.
But is it the lack of? Do you think the lack of a leadership education, or like we could all use some kind of leadership education, don't we?
Yeah, and I've participated in many of them. I'm curious, and I have a love of learning as one of my character strengths. So I've participated in a lot of those trainings, but in general, all the courses and education that I did were fine. They were good. The teachers were brilliant, but I didn't have the joy of leadership. So if you don't, are happy at work, you don't usually. I mean, my experience is that I didn't apply what I was taught because I was not happy, and when I'm not happy, I'm just surviving.
Yeah.
So that's why I've been, and I'm in this talk, we are to talk about the joy of leadership, and I will present you a small model which I've learned 9 years ago, which for me gives out a small hands-on buffet. If you are a leader, or if you are managing leaders or coaching leaders, there will be some small stuffs in this buffet you can steal with pride. And all of it are based on science. So, and the small stuff we can call the small stuff MVI, minimum viable interventions. So I'm a real, I mean, in a quick word, you can call it the quick fix.
Yeah.
Especially in Denmark, I'm sure also in Iceland or all over the world. I mean, quick fix are, we don't do that. But actually we do. I mean, we brush our teeth every day. We should at least brush them every day. That's a small quick fix. So we do small events every hour, if we look at it, that actually affects our mood and our degree of well-being or happiness or whatever you would like to call it. So I'm a big fan of quick fix. It's much better than in the reputation though. But by calling it MVI, we place it into the academic world, and then we put it into a hands-on buffet, so it's more hands-on again. So yeah, it's based on science, but it's easy to access. I mean, that's how it works for me. And when I do about 40 or 50 keynotes a year, mostly in Danish though. I have some in English, none in German. Not nine. That's due to my skills. And then, besides the keynotes, I try to be re-invited to talk with the management team or the HR to talk with them about, how could we introduce more of this science of happiness into our organization instead of just doing what we think is right, or as many people actually are doing. They are, trying to get rid of the mistakes. They have a fault-finding mindset instead of being a benefit finder. I mean, there's a major difference between, fixing a failure or, creating something new. And the trick is we need both. We need both. We need to fix it. I mean, if I'm on a bike and my tire gets flat, I need to fix it. I mean, no matter how much I focus on my computer, which you can see at the top there, the tire is still flat. I have to fix that. So some things you have to fix, but many things won't give us a better organization or better leadership team if this problem is fixed. So, I mean, too much focus on deficits instead of focusing on strength and what do we want out of our work. So
what is it in the beginning when I remember when positive psychology it exploded some years ago, 10 years or 15 years ago, and then all I remember is, are you how when you are, like you say, 40 or 50 keynotes a year, like what are you focusing on, or have you in your 9 or 14 years or whatever you have been working, how much has it evolved from like mindfulness, well-being, being present? Or
but that's a good question, Helena. I mean, in the beginning, I now see that there was a lot of happy work. There was it makes sense because the academic world has been, for many decades, mainly focusing on deficit and illness and sickness. And then suddenly in 98, this science field of positive psychology entered the stage. It started there, but before that, Maslow, you could argue that he is also a positive psychologist. But yeah, so there was a lack of positivity there. So many of the exercises in the beginning, the most famous one is what went well. I mean, write down 3 things which went well today, and for each of them, write down why is it a good thing. And now they know for a small percentage, and even more less than that, that exercise actually makes them more unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it works for most people up to 3 months, and then for a few people up to 6 months, by increasing the positivity emotions and decreasing the risk of depression. And that's all good. But of course, I mean, if you are in a dark place and you're sitting in a team setting at work, and I, with big energy and positivity, says, well, write down 3 things which went well, and you see that that all the others are writing down, but you can't come up with anything, that will actually make you worse. I mean, that makes sense, of course. So we should be careful of using these exercises as well. So the first thing I do is always to give people the permission to be human.
And to fail. And they are allowed to fail.
For me, that's part of being human. I mean, humans fail.
Yeah.
I fail every day. And I learn from the fails, but I also succeed every day. And actually, we also learn from our successes. So life is a paradox. I mean, it's not about being happy or being unhappy. For me, it's about doing things that makes us happier. And one thing there is to look at, I have to give myself and you and all the audience here to be permission to be human, which includes having happy thoughts and angry thoughts and cry, as you mentioned in the beginning. I mean, that's human nature. I mean, if you cry all the time, well, it would be a really difficult webinar then. But that's okay. I mean, cry, but do it, and then after crying, do something. I don't know what you call that, but I'm very much. I mean, I know thoughts and feelings are very important, but I know actions are king. If you do something, I mean, Saturday, we were going to Roskilde, close to Copenhagen, and I have decided in the morning that I would go by my bike there. It's only 50K or something like that. But when I came around 2 o'clock, where it was time to ride a bike, I didn't want to go. So I poured a cup of coffee, and I decided not to go. But then I drank the coffee, and then I decided, okay, even though I don't feel like it, I did it. And I'm not regretting it now, because of course it was good, going on my bike. I mean, going for a walk wherever you are is very seldom lowering your mood or happiness. It always does something pretty okay for you, and sometimes it's actually amazing.
Yeah, of course.
So it's about what you do, not about your thoughts and feelings. I mean, thoughts or feelings, they evaporate as water when the sun is shining.
And also, maybe when you have decided something and then you don't do it, then you start to have this inner talk about, oh, you are a loser, you are a bad person, blah, 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 and then the spiral goes downwards. Yeah, bad human being.
Of course, if I go to Lavkagehuset and eat cheesecakes all the time, I mean, eventually, my shirt wouldn't fit me. So it's again about balance. I mean, if I drink alcohol all the time, it's not good. If I drink some of the time, it's okay. I mean, it's about balance, I think. So
Lavkagehuset, it must be a cake house.
It's a cake house. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're so Danish.
I mean, you've been living here, so you know what I'm talking about. And Lavkagehuset is incredible. I mean, please don't go in there. If you just go into, you don't. I mean, I've tried many times to go in to have a small look-see, but I've never tried to come out without buying anything.
So when you walk past it, then you have to take a big.
Then I have to walk past it. Just today we agreed here in my home, Lisa and I, that we will take 14 days experiment with keto diet. And keto, it's low carb, high fat. And right now it's 11:49, and the only thing I can think of is food.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me here this hour. But yes. I know that because I've tried. I mean, our life goes like this, and also our diets and our physical exercise habits. At least for me, then it's okay to accept, and then to do something else before I get out of the screen. So I have to stay in the. I mean, in the perfect world, we behaved as we thought. I mean, I should do this and I should do. And also as a leader, I mean, sometimes you do things that you regret. Sometimes you do things you're proud of. I mean, that's part of being a leader. And in both cases, you should say thank you. Because, I mean, of course, you do something you regret, you should say sorry to your co-workers or colleagues, and then hope for forgiveness. You are also a human being.
But that is learning by doing. But there is, for a leader, it can be difficult to say I made a mistake. But if you do, I think you would be a bigger person.
Yeah, me too, but that's based on our values. I mean, I've seen leaders who, will do whatever they can not to be disclosed as someone who makes mistakes. You don't have to be a pilot. I mean, I don't like pilots doing mistakes or heart surgery. I mean, please don't mistakes. But again, they do. And the good thing about flying. I mean, I've been flying a lot around, and I have a normal amount of uncertainty when I fly. I'm not afraid, but I'm conscious because even though I know all the science about it, but I also know that when they make mistakes and incidents, action or happens, or almost accident happens, a big wheel of paperwork and investigations, are started up. So it's actually getting more and more safe flying. But it doesn't take away my fear. Or at least I have a daughter which is very much afraid of flying, and we did a course in how to fly with a more happy face or whatever. And this course was divided into two themes. The one theme was all the flying techniques. I mean, why does a plane fly? What's the draft and the flaps and the slacks? And I mean, all the techniques, and she really loved that. And the other part was about handling the emotions. Being uncomfortable and being okay with being uncomfortable. And she, really loved the technical part, and she read the emotional part, but didn't do the exercises. So do you think it helped her?
No.
But the technical part did some work. But we are human beings who have emotions, we have feelings, we have the capability to go in the plane or do not go in the plane, buy some cake or not buy some. I mean, we could show up at work without, feeling for it. I mean, that's what we do. So by that, I can, maybe turn this conversation into the SPIRE model, because I mean, many people, they come up to me and say, well, I want to be happy. I want to be happy. So what can I do? The first thing you should do is to get rid of that phrase, because if you wake up in the morning and say, today I want to be happy, science is actually telling us that you won't be. Because if you're chasing it, you will not get it. So what should we do then? Because we know by science that if you are happy, you make more money, you are less sick, and when you are sick, you recover faster, you're easier to collaborate, you have higher job satisfaction. There's a lot of numerous things which actually is good for us. So what we should do is we should work on the elements of happiness. And this model that I will present for you here now is not my model. It's a model which is developed by three persons, Tal Ben-Shahar, which is still my teacher at the Happiness Studies Academy, and Maria Solaris and Megan McDonough. It's a model who captures the whole person. Because I mean, we are whole persons, so we have the ability to do this and this and this. So we are not just machines. So it's a model who captures, for me, it's the best model I've seen in my time, and it's not the only model. I mean, if you work with another model which is good for you, please go with that. That's okay with me. But this model gives me a sense of, okay, here I have some tools, so I can tune up and down, and they are all interconnected. These 5 elements of SPIRE is connected, so it doesn't matter if you work on the P or the S or the E. And the 5 elements are S for spirituality. And before turn this down, spirituality it doesn't have to be about religion, or it could be more like being present and doing things that are mindful. P, inspire, is the physical part of the human being. I mean, we are physical creatures. I mean, our body, I mean, if we do as it's meant to be used, then actually our body, reward us with happy hormones. So we'll be happier by just going outside. Gives us more happiness than being inside. Even if it rains or snow or if it's cold, it doesn't matter. If you go outside, you will be happier. But please be aware, you won't be the happiest person in the world just by going outside. You will be happier. And maybe you can't feel it, maybe you can, feel a little bit, and that's okay. So that's the P, and that the I of is the intellectual well-being element. That's that's where learning comes in. That's where celebrating mistakes comes in. That's where single tasking comes in instead of multitasking. If you are watching this webinar right now and still writing down emails at the side because this is just something you do, that's okay. I mean, life is pretty much about being able to multitask. But if you want to increase your happiness level, you should single task. And you don't need to tell you that. You know that already. And the R element of SPIRE is the relational well-being. I mean, the most important thing in life is other people, and it's the quality of the relationship we have with other people. And it's also about having a relationship with it which is healthy with yourself. And that's, at least for me and for many other people, a little bit tricky. Sitting in a room alone is pretty hard for most of us. Many of life's problems have actually come from people's inability to sit alone in a room. So it's about, what do you tell yourself when you do a mistake? Are you saying, "Wow, that's fascinating," or saying, "Oh, you're a shitty dad"? I mean, I don't hope that people will see how shitty you are at talking English, for instance. That's the thought that came up right now. So relationship element of well-being is important. But the good news is there's tons of exercises you can experiment with to increase that element, as in intellectual and physical and spiritual. The last element of SPIRE is emotional well-being. And now it's not about crying. Sometimes it is, but it's also about, accepting that we are human beings, accepting that all emotions are okay. It's okay to feel ashamed. It's okay to feel embarrassed. It's okay to feel that now I will spit you in the face. It's not okay to do it though.
Yeah, okay.
All emotions are okay. And emotions are actually just emotions. What I've learned for the E element of SPIRE model, the emotional well-being, is actually, maybe it helps me when I fly. I mean, because I accept that I get worried. And I try to be in that. But I don't go with the emotions. So I say, "Oh, that's an emotion." Or before this talk, of course I had the thought of saying, "Well, René, are you sure your English is good enough? I mean, your grade in high school was pretty bad in English." That's just a thought.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the truth as well. I don't know. But if I start by debating inside my head with that thought, then my head as a computer thinks, "Whoa, he's a little unsecure. I think I'll ask him more questions in that area." So now I say, "Well, I already agreed to do the talking English, so that's what we do."
Yeah.
And it is not easy to do that, but it's possible. So
tell me.
So that's the SPIRE model in its essence.
Yeah, but you had some props the other day. Where are they?
Yeah. The props are here. This is the SPIRE model, so everyone can see it.
Yes.
And as
so
you have see,
happiness is whole being.
Yeah.
But how do you talk to people about this? Like, how are people can they see it? Do you make, before you visit and you start talking about the Spire, do you send out a survey, or do you just show up and start talking about it, and then
That's
people
very,
are,
very different. I mean, depending on the process that I'm entering, and,
yeah,
and usually it's like this. They have gathered all their leaders in the company. They have 2 hours. They need someone to fill the gap.
yeah,
And that someone is sometimes me, because I'm available, or because they actually are curious about the topic of bringing in the science of happiness into their leadership regime. So I'm very humble about getting invited out, and then at the beginning, back in 10, 11, I think I was much more a salesman than I am today. I'm still a salesman because I have my company, but I'm not trying to sell happiness studies or positive psychology. I mean, I'm presenting a buffet, and I'm trying to present a buffet which is so diverse and different that there's something which could be interesting for everyone. So my trick is to share some research, some experiments, and then inspire people to do some research. And research, what does that mean? That does mean that take this exercise, for instance, 3 good things, or what are you good at, or saying thank you to someone 3 times a day. I mean, that's an exercise. That's an intervention which actually, that works if you do it for most people. But you have to pick one thing out of the buffet. We need to eat, right?
Yeah.
So pick something and do some research or research. You can do it in a team, or you can do it alone. That's okay. It's better doing it in teams though, because the chance of success is higher when you do something together. I mean, when I go on my bike and it's raining, I'm not going. But if I have an arrangement with Peter, which I have sometimes, and it rains, I still go, because I promised him to be there. It's just rain. So I'm very much into research, and the good thing about my chemistry background is that when you do experiments is just experiments. I mean, we do a plan, and then we do the experiments, and then we evaluate afterwards. Maybe it's a success, maybe it's not, maybe it didn't work, maybe we decided on doing this for 7 days in a row and we only succeeded for 3. Well, that's a result. So it's not about, also, I mean, many people, especially leaders, they want not a quick fix, they want a life fix. They want something that they can use and utilize now, and then it will last forever. I mean, that would be amazing. So we need people to admit that we do experiments.
But how is it when you have talked about the Spire model to the companies, all this, and then they say to you, "Oh, René, this resonated something with us. Like, can you then just talk about the P, or like, can you then split it up so it will be more focused on?"
Yeah, I've been studying in this model since 2015, and I spent 8 years before I started to teach it, because the first element was the spirituality, and I come from the natural science, so I don't think I'm very spiritual. But if the spirituality is meaningful and being present, I mean, that's me. So sometimes we do the brief talk in 1 hour, 2 hours, and then afterwards I'm hired in to do some, you can call it happiness training, but usually they don't call it happiness training, they call it leadership training. But what they do is we work on the elements of being a little more happier. And some people, they like the S in the Spire model. Let me just share some of the MVIs you can do there. For instance, you can use 5 minutes to write down, why did you go to work today? Why are you there? I mean, is it because you want to, get out of your home? That's a reason, and that's, I think, fair. Is it because you're doing something which matters for you, or maybe for your colleagues, or maybe for your clients, or maybe for your country, or maybe for the world? I don't know. I mean, why did you go to work? Use 5 minutes. You don't have to share the notes. You don't have to over positive, right? It doesn't have to be positive. It doesn't matter. Write down why you went to work. Another thing is doing one thing at a time. And that's a tricky one because we are used to having many balls up in the air and doing this and this and this. For instance, did you know that having the email pop up on while doing work, as this we do out here, it lowers your IQ with 10 points.
No.
10 points. And let me tell you how much 10 point is. For me, I need all my points. 10 points is equal to being awake for 24 hours. That's how you are when you lose 10 points. Smoking weed is only 4 points. So if you allow yourself to be interrupted, even though that it's very important that emails are clicking all the time, you actually lowers your productivity. So we need people to be, if you want to increase your spiritual well-being, we need a little bit more single tasking. There's another study about a company where they allowed for 2 hours of leisure time during the day. I mean, you could do whatever you wanted. You could sleep, or you could go for a walk. You can go down to the gym or whatever. And then that's 2 hours less work. But those people who did the 2 hours leisure time, they were more productive. I mean, maybe it's common sense. I don't know. I like when, data is backing those things up. So we need to experiment by doing one thing at a time. Maybe set a time, half an hour just, or maybe just 15 minutes. In these 15 minutes, I will really dive into this, what I'm doing right now. I mean, if you're having as we have here, I mean, it would be really rude of me if I pick up my phone and just a minute you have to wait. I mean, it's easy when you are doing a webinar, but if you're a participant in a webinar, it's not that easy. I have a client which I've been helping for many years, and he said to me, and it's a true story. Last year, I rode 6,000 kilometers on my bike while participating in Teams meetings.
Oh yeah, while
so
you
he has as me a home trainer. So he's sitting there watching on the phone or the screen, participating in meetings. And I said, when you have to say something, what do you do then? I just gear down, and then they don't see it. And I mean, maybe it's okay, maybe it's not. For me, it wouldn't work. That's okay. So that's and then we have to talk about meditation as well. I mean. And we don't need to do 45 minutes a day. I mean, science is saying that after 15 minutes, you're pretty much covered. And sometimes if you have 3, it's better than none, right? So meditation is not about thinking about nothing. It's about returning to the now. So when I started meditate, I really thought I was bad at it because I have the monkey brain, so it's all over the place, And we started by looking at erasing or thinking about our breathing, and then suddenly I was thinking about Iceland or whatever wonderful things I could come up with. But mindfulness is about catching yourself, monkey brain, and returning to whatever you're doing. And mindfulness could also, for me, it's better when I walk, so I do walking mindfulness because then I'm active. And then actually also invited the P into the equation, which sometimes is more effective for me. But some people like to do mindfulness for half an hour, 1 hour. And my answer is always, if that really works for you, please continue to do it. If it doesn't work, then try something else. But try it out before saying it doesn't work.
Yeah, but tell me, the Inspire model, have you gotten a call from somebody who said like, oh, the joy of being leader after I went to the call? Like, have you gotten some like feedback from or anything from people who said like, oh, René, you are fantastic, or René, you are a SHIT?
Yeah, sometimes they also call me pain in the ass. Because sometimes people think I'm too happy. I mean, let's do that, because can you be too happy? I mean, how many people do you know which are actually too happy?
Well, not many.
Not many. I mean, I guess very, very few. But do you know something who are not happy? or some are actually quite sad, or maybe even depressed. We all know people who are depressed. We all know people who have suffered from stress and maybe have had to take an excess of work, or maybe even quit their job because it was too hard for them. But how many do you actually know who quit their job because they were too happy about it?
Not one.
Not one. I mean, and that's the trick. I mean, happiness is there's no side effects, except that most people I meet say, well, it's fine with happy, but we also have to focus on the negative. And then I say, hell yeah. But they know from science that you have to have 5 positive emotions to take the top of one of the negative ones. And of course, it depends on what the negative is. If all my kids die today, yeah, sorry about that. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. If they're away for an hour, it's fine.
Yeah.
So you need a ratio between those positive and negative. I mean, imagine this: having a call from a colleague saying, "Hello, this is Peter. I'm just phoning in to say that I'm not coming today. I woke up this morning and I had a really nice sleep, and I'm so happy. So I will take a happy day or two, maybe even a week." I mean, usually people phone in and say, "I'm very sorry, and I know this project is really important, but or my kids are sick, or you lie that your kids are sick, or whatever." But one of the problems is actually that many people are, taught in culture that please tune down the happiness a little bit. And that, back to your question, I actually just had an email this morning from a participant in a talk I did 2 weeks ago, and he started writing, "Well, I was one of the people sitting in the back with the hands like this."
Yeah.
But then he told me what he learned from the talk, and that of course made me happy. But what made me really happy was actually what he's been doing. He is a teacher in a public school in Denmark, and now he is working with the kids in a more strengths-based mindset. And he's trying to involve the parents into the equation as well, because the kids are also sometimes at home. So if we have a strengths-based mindset in the school setting, I mean, that's super duper. But if mom and dad are focused on removing deficits and mistakes, it doesn't help the kids that much. So we need to invite the parents into the equation as well. As in a leadership setting, if you are a leader and you have a benefit-finding mindset, then of course you should be aware that when your workers or teammates, they maybe discuss with clients or suppliers, some of them are afraid of doing mistakes, and that's okay. That's part of being human. But it's highly contagious. I see actually on your shelf you have Kim Cameron's book up there, right? Energizing Leadership. Isn't it that one? The first one I can see, isn't it Energizing Leadership?
This one is, no, it's...
Oh, it's Happy Leader. Oh, it's pretty much the same layout. Okay, sorry about that. But Energizing Leadership is about, it's contagious. It's the butterfly effect. I mean, happy people are contagious, as are negative people. But negative people, they tend to have a higher contact number. I mean, they are more contagious than the positive ones. But we know from science that the happy leaders, or the leaders who are generous and grateful, they tend to be more centered around positive movements in the companies. So yes, I get sometimes feedback from leaders but sometimes it takes time. And I actually love the people who said like this. I mean, the people who do like this in the beginning, I mean, they won't change anything. They're just going with the flow, and that's okay. I mean, they're hard to change. But these ones are sitting, evaluating. Is this for me? And if it's this for me, where's the science? Does it help? Okay. How can we implement this? And that's what they do. I really like the guys who are a little negative in the beginning, because then the risk of success is sometimes higher, because they're actually looking for something. I mean, people like this, they're looking for fun. And that's okay. So And
Yeah.
should we say a little bit about
Tell me-
different
tell me-
spy elements?
Sorry.
I'm just, I shared some buffet things from the S. I think maybe I should share some from the physical part as well. The first thing about the physical part is that we have to admit that mind and body are connected. I mean, if you are in a sad mood and you decide for yourself to go for a small walk, you will be happier. Please note that I am saying happier, not happy. I mean, and being happy, don't worry, that will wear off. Just like when the sun is shining, don't worry, in a moment it will rain. I mean, moods go and come, right? So sometimes it rains.
But that is also because you, when you go out for a walk, you release some endorphins.
Exactly. So there's so many benefits of going out. So of course, when we do the physical elements, we talk a little bit about stress as well. And for you, Hidden here and the participant, the small lecture on stress is very short, actually. Stress is not the problem. That's it. It's the lack of recovery that's usually the problem. I mean, stress is a natural human response on a task, on something you feel not comfortable with, or something you feel, this is hard for me. And that's okay. I mean, that's also how we develop. So we need to push the limits a little bit sometimes. But sometimes we push them too hard, too long without recovery. So we have to, to increase the chance of more physical well-being, many of us need to incorporate small islands of rest and recovery. And recovery doesn't mean to sleep. You could sleep, but recovery could also be in the lunch break to go for a walk up and down the stairs or around the building, or take the bike to work, or especially from work, maybe, so you can clear your brain. So we need to introduce micro moments of recovery. That could be 1 minute of breathing 5 times or 3 times. It could be 15 minutes of meditation, or it could be a longer. The harder you work, the more recovery you need to put in. I mean, from sports, I mean, athletes, they know that. I mean, if you train hard, you have to rest as hard. And in some way, leaders and government organizations, they don't believe that, or at least they don't do it. They just keep on moving, even though they're getting better and better, and they lose their IQ points and whatever. So yeah, and that's also we have to talk about food and sleep as well. But I don't want to go into that. But we know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's about the action. I mean, we started this morning on the keto diet for 14 days again now, and we know what's going to happen. I know I have a hunger for sugar today, and I'm so far proud that I didn't have an ice cream, even though it's down there. But I know the benefit of it. Yeah. The trick is, if I didn't have a collaboration with Lisa about it, it will be harder for me to do it. And now for telling you guys, it will be even harder, because maybe some of you guys will write for me, how does it go with the keto? And then I would really like to write, it's still going okay, but it's still hard. And if I fail, I have to admit that, and then don't throw everything away. If I fail on Wednesday, 1 meal, well, then I failed 1 meal. Then go back to the task that I assigned myself to do. That's okay. Mm-hmm. Of course, if I fail all the time, I'm not doing keto. That's for sure. So yeah. So that's the physical part, and so we need to admit that we are human beings. We have to obey to. We have to obey to. We have to sleep. We have to move. We have to touch. Actually, also, I mean, touch is also pretty important for feeling well-being, right? If you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. If you have a girlfriend, touch is very. I mean, there is a thing that let's do that right away. When we come to R, I mean, a 6-second kiss is actually enough time for the brain to say, "Wow, this is nice," and then the dopamine starts to kick in. At 1 second kiss is not enough. So please investigate by you can do some research by kissing a little longer. if you want to hug, it takes 20 seconds. I mean, I know it's silly numbers, but it works. I mean, you know that already. You don't have to try it out. You know, if you met a friend that you haven't seen for a long time, you will have a longer hug, right? And it feels good. And then some people don't like to hug, and that's also okay. So please don't hug them. I have a daughter, 21. She don't like to hug at all, not even me. But I like to hug her. So sometimes I do it anyway. And she's standing there waiting, say, I'm done. I'm always there.
Yeah, but René, how is it when you are talking to the leaders, or you are presenting this, and when you come to the art, you know, the relationships? Because today we are like, there are generations gaps, because the young people, they are communicating on TikTok, on Snapchat, or whatever. Like, how do you talk about this when and the old guys or the older people, they're just like, oh, the young people, they don't want to, like.
But
how do you address that?
Yeah, I find a denominator. I mean, what you know, built us together? I mean, we are human beings, and we all need quality relations to have the feeling of thriving. I mean, of course, we can find maybe one or two who can sit alone in a room for years and years, but most people can't at all. I mean, so I try to find what's bringing us together. And one of the things that I do, especially when we do relation part, I do this exercise, and you can just steal it. It's so easy to do. I tell people to talk more about what they're good at, and be more curious about what the other people are good at. And I know in Denmark at least, and maybe also in Iceland or in Germany or wherever you are, it's not always, you know, to talk. Is it bragging to talking about what you're good at? Do you have a culture in your company where it's okay to say, I'm really good facilitator in these meetings, so I like to have the facilitator role? Or do you just, you know, go a little easier with it? So what I do is in the exercises, I pair people in 4 or 5, and then I put one of them with the back to the others like this. And then the rest of the group, they'll have 3 minutes. 3 minutes of talking. If it was you, Hedin, what are you good at? And then we will spend 3 minutes talking as a dialogue. What do we think you are good at? And you will be listening, and your emotion will go like this, and maybe you were writing it down so you can remember it again. And just by doing that exercise, it's, for some people, it's pretty tough exercise, but usually I've never seen it not working, because we are human beings, and we like to hear that other people have actually noticed us, and they also have noticed what we are good at. And I've written a book about character strengths for some years ago, and sometimes I throw those character strengths into the equation, saying, if we were to use those 24 character strengths, is it kindness or love, or is it bravery, or is it zest? I mean, I have zest, as you've seen. So usually people say, you are so zestful, and I say, thank you for seeing me. And of course, then when you're done, you turn around and you say, thank you for noticing me, thank you for seeing me. And then, you know, it goes around, so everybody tries that exercise. And that exercise always increases the level of knowledge between the leaders or workers, but it also builds in a little bit more trust. And trust is very important for a good collaboration.
But how is it, because now I'm only thinking of Axel Sandemose, like, you don't, you are not, don't you think that you are worth something? Or like, it's ingrained, but it is ingrained in us that somehow we lower, like, because sometimes
maybe that's why other people are so important, because other people don't hear our voices. I mean that's also a thing when a leader. I've trained a leader in positive feedback, and then they do it, and then they come back and say, well, their workers, they don't respond as I expected. I mean, I really did what you said. They, you know, find out something he did good, tell them, and, you know, comment on the character strengths and what it means for the company and everything. And I was, you know, waiting for the big, but he said thank you, and then nothing more. But maybe that employee the last hour has have an inner voice saying, I'm not good at this, 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 I'm not good at this. And then the leader comes up and says, you're good at it. Okay, that's one from the leader, and there's maybe 200 from the negative part. So it takes time to persuade or to convince people that maybe you are okay at this. So what you should do is, that leads us into the emotional part actually. When you have those thoughts, if you're good enough or whatever, I try to say, not out loud, but I say, shut up. That's for other people to tell.
Yeah.
I mean, they hired me, so I must be open. But if I go into a conversation with the voice, it continues. So sometimes I say, oh, that's a thought, and then I do something else.
Yeah, the problem is we think way too much.
Well, we're human beings, and there's only two kinds of people who don't have those emotions of, and feelings of not being good enough. The one people are the dead people, and the other ones are the psychopaths. So if you have those feelings that you're not good enough, you should say, yeah, man, I'm alive, and I'm not a psychopath.
Yeah.
But sometimes I make this, too easy, and it's not. It's fucking hard to be human, but it's also incredibly fascinating and fun. And that's where the joy comes in. You have to look for the joyful moments. I mean, that's the basic of all those things here. You have to figure out for yourself in the buffet of Spire or whatever buffet you choose to eat from, what actually makes you a little happier. What can you do today that makes you a little happier as a leader? What's the first question you answer or ask your workers when you show up in the morning? Is it, oh, that problem yesterday, ooh, how did it go? Or is it, what went well yesterday? Who did something wonderful or fun? Or what are you looking forward to do today? I mean, you, by your question as a leader, is actually determining the focus. And that's back to the relationship part, Edin, as well. Julie and John Gottman, who has been studying relationship for many, many years, one of the things they inspire us to do is to ask more questions. I mean, the experiment could be this week at work. 50% of all the communication you have with your workers should be a question. 50%, that's a lot maybe. Some of us tend to just put out, judgmental thoughts and things like that, and that doesn't open up for relationships. So we need more questions, and we also need people to be recognized a little bit more, and we need to lean into what the people are, bringing to the table. If a coworker comes and say, wow, I did this, and you think, oh, it's a shitty thing, you have to connect to his enthusiasm about the good news. Even though you don't think it's good news, it's not lying. It's about, it's like a small fire. If you want to build a big fire, you start small, and then you grow from there. So,
but it must also be like when you ask questions and you don't say, oh, hello, good morning, how are you? And then walk past them and don't show anything. You don't look them in the eye or anything.
Yeah.
You have to show that you are invested in that.
Then we are back to the spiritual element in the Spire model, to be present. I mean, and then that's on you. And then many times a week I thought, wow, I should have spent a little bit more time in the dialogue there because I was eager to move on. I did it 10 minutes ago. Say, can we move on? And I hope that's okay. I hope you'll forgive me for doing that. So this is just a model. So I sometimes end up by using this metaphor of looking into the sun. I mean, we all have seen the sun, and the sun is incredible. Sometimes it's too hot actually. But if you look directly into the sun, it's just like pursuing happiness. It's not working. So we have to look indirectly into the sun as on happiness and joy. We have to do the elements that actually makes us a little happier. And by the Spire model, I have tried to present a way to do a little bit more experiment in your work life. And of course, I'm curious if someone have questions, or if you have, in a week or two, you have made some experiments that you want to share, please do, because we all get, that's the intellectual part. I mean, some people call me an expert, and I like that because I'm an alpha ham, but still I'm so curious about what's going on. So I'm not done learning. So
you are an extrovert because you have.
Thank
But
you.
how talk, because we are now we have been talking for an hour so fast, this chat, and you are so energized, René. Maybe it's because you are on a diet and you just want to talk, so you don't think about how does people get in contact with you if they want to hear more? Like, do you want them? Should I post the email address, or do you want to have the LinkedIn or Facebook or?
I think it's, LinkedIn is fine, or is this doing? I don't know. I can write it in the chat. o2.ny.
Is it?
That's my homepage. I don't know if I can write it in the chat.
Yeah. Okay. So it's
like that.
Just O2NU.
Yeah.
So we
it's
will
called
just
oxygen,
post it.
and new on Danish is now. So for me, it's the zest is built into the web page.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, or if you have any, exactly. And if you have any questions, or if you have any comments or whatever,
and they can also find you on LinkedIn or.
Yeah, I have an Instagram as well. That's only me ice baiting, so that's a teaser.
Then I don't want to see that. Ice bait.
No.
But René, this
Thank
has
you.
been a fantastic start of the International Week of Happiness at Work, and I hope that people are, like, when they see this, if they see it and whatever, like, I hope they will, like, have fun on this, and they can look back and just call you or talk to you or whatever. So, but I really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. Thank you for the lauke, like the cake house thingy. And now I think it's time for us both to say takk for kaffe.
Takk for kaffe. And thank you for the opportunity to share my passion of human beings, actually. And our ability, actually, to do something about it if we want to change. So we have to do it. So it's hard. Yeah.
Yes. So this was the first session. So now we have only 9 left. So this will be a fun week. Thank you very much for